So tell me about this, the idea that you are the executive producer of this movie. How did that happen?
You're only 16 and you have some significant titles in your resume. Tell me your secret sauce.
At just 20 years old, the Los Angeles native seems wise beyond her years.
Seems so wise, right?
Really?
So smart. Listen to her talk all day.
Were there any nerves right before the performance?
No? I just felt really confident.
No surprise there. JD says he's been singing since he was 2.
You're 14 years old.
Right. Sanaya Sidney, she's only 12 years old, but she's accomplished so much in Hollywood. You've accomplished so much at such a young age already. Wow. So you've been acting since you were 8 years old?
Yes.
Do you even remember what it was like to not be an actor? Wow.
Okay, so you're only 12 years old, but you've already worked with some of the biggest names.
Oh, look at her!
Very good, Eric.
So if you read the most recent blog post, you know that I basically came away with this idea that Black excellence has kind of become something mandatory in young Hollywood. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Black excellence in Hollywood, and what I'm mostly going to be focusing on is how that excellence and how these young Black stars are portrayed in media through interviews and different things like that. So the little sequence I showed at the beginning of this video is only a small part of understanding how young Black people fit into this space of young Black Hollywood. However, I feel like these kinds of reactions kind of exemplify the space in which these stars exist. Even though at this point there are so many young Black stars and that's amazing, they're kind of seen as an anomaly, as these kind of like intelligent young Black unicorns who basically exist to, you know, get things done, but also make adults, and mostly white adults, kind of feel bad about their own intellect.
Again, Marseille, you're talking to me like I'm a child, and you're right. I love the dynamic of this interview. You're like, what are you talking about, Conan?
To set the scene, we're going to look at a short clip from a panel that Yara Shahidi participated in with Naomi Wedler for the Radcliffe Institute.
A factor of adultifying somebody, the problem that I find with it, there are many problems, but the problem that I find with it is that there's a temporariness to being an adult, and so you are placed in the category of adulthood when it's convenient, and then quickly taken out of it when you are then put in position to defend yourself, and so it is no longer a conversation happening amongst peers, but it's a conversation in which somebody is given the power to reinstate the hierarchy when necessary. And you see this when you look at the as we've discussed before, but the killing of Black boys and Black girls, and when it turns to our ability to then stand up for ourselves, we're not given the same right. And then on a much smaller scale of being from the liberal bubble of California, of LA, it's been interesting as of late to even see how I'm perceived, and I think we had talked about this previously, in that a lot of the articles that have come out as of late have made the point of asking whether how I speak is premeditated, pre-planned, politician-like. And it's been interesting because these are things that range from Time magazine to Cosmo, and I didn't realize how concerned they were with whether or not I was being authentic, because I didn't match whatever their preconceived notion was of childhood.
What Yara describes as these kind of preconceived notions of childhood, and how young Black boys and girls are not necessarily allowed to exist within childhood, but then are also not necessarily allowed to be adults. It presents itself in a particularly interesting way in relation to young Hollywood.
You can see this in Naomi's response to the same question.
I'm actually not sure. I don't really pay a lot of attention to that stuff.
That's probably a good choice.
One of the main things that I noticed, both in video interviews and written interviews, was how there was this kind of like professionalism that the interviewers took on when I'm talking to these young stars. If you're familiar with Hollywood interviews and watch a lot of them, you know that a lot of Hollywood stars often complain about the kinds of questions that they're asked, especially women and women of color.
I was waiting for you to smile at some of the compliments. You didn't.
Smiling doesn't win you gold medals.
Oh, okay.
And I expected to see a lot of that when first going into this and starting to research this topic. But surprisingly, a lot of the questions that these interviewers were asking were much more geared towards their career and these roles that they're in, kind of like the questions that it seems actors want to be asked. But yet, there's still this thing. There's still this kind of sense that these interviewers are actively attempting to avoid those pitfalls. Not necessarily that they're like genuinely interested in how these young Black folks exist in Hollywood. So this can sometimes be a good thing. However, more often it kind of comes across as a form of adultification, kind of verging on objectification.
You switch the idea from an adult turning into a kid to a kid turning into an adult, right?
Yeah.
But for you, it must not have been hard to play an adult because you're almost like an adult already.
It was not hard at all because like the character was kind of like made for me.
Right, sure.
So it was
by you.
Yeah.
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 And so this production company, do you have like an office? Are you running this out of a dollhouse or what's going on?
No, well, I wish the dollhouse would be lit, but no, it's by an office. I have the corner office, which is pretty cool.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, so you have like a whole floor or something?
Not a whole floor. We're getting there, but like it's like in a hidden place that no one knows like where we are. It's like our creative space.
How many employees do you have?
We have about, I think 6 or 7 right now.
6 or 7 employees.
Yeah.
Do you hire these people?
Not just me, it's my parents.
Okay, so
too.
your parents are involved.
Yeah, even though I'm like the boss.
You're their
kind
boss.
of. I'm their boss, but they're still my parents, so you know. I
Yeah, but boy, that's it. So did they still give you allowance, or do you give them allowance, or how does that go?
No, it's everyone's money, I guess, but I'm making it to, if that makes sense, I don't know. We work as a family, so it's pretty cool.
I see.
Like I said, of course, there are plenty of cases in which these questions don't necessarily have an underlying tone of objectification. And to be honest, I think that has a lot to do with how much presence these young people have on screen and how they kind of demand that respect that these interviewers are trying to give them. Their intellect is pretty undeniable, and like asking them dumb questions just seems kind of silly.
Alexander, I have to ask if you're single because every female wants to know.
I am single, yeah.
You are single? Okay. Yeah. Are you guys single? Ask the whole cast.
No, I have like 20 boyfriends.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not. Okay, sorry. I'm excited to. Have you guys seen the movie yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have. So, what is your favorite scene? Like, what do you think the fans are going to be most excited about to see in the movie? Like, the most exciting scene or the one that came together the best? Do you think?
I loved. I think the dynamic between Candace and Rue in the movie is just phenomenal, as well, obviously, as in the books. And I think the fans are just gonna get rocked by that one scene.
Is that your favorite scene as well?
I don't know if I really, I mean, I don't think there was like one specific, I think just because I was a fan of the books and when I watched it, like the main thing that hit me was that I was so happy that I wasn't the entire time going, oh, they changed that, they flipped that, they took that out. Like, it was just kind of, it all came together in a very smooth way so that you don't notice. That was what made me happiest.
I think my favorite parts were probably seeing the Capitol for the first time, just because those shots completely blew me away, because it was completely what I had envisioned in my mind and even better. And I loved seeing the cornucopia scene just because it was a complete thrill, and it was terrifying but exciting in a weird kind of sick way, but still I really loved it.
Okay.
In this interview for The Hunger Games with Amanda Stenberg, Jennifer Lawrence, and Alexander Ludwig, in which the interviewer is barely paying attention to Amanda because she just seems like she doesn't really know like what to do with her. Whenever she asks questions, she's looking right at Alexander and Jennifer, and then like after they answer, she like kind of looks at Amanda to see if she can answer the question, because it clearly wasn't a question that was formulated for her. And you know, Amanda like takes this in strides. She answers the questions well, like she answers them in a normal way. But yeah, she definitely is not given the same attention, even though she's not shying away from the interview. She's not giving any signals that she won't be able to answer these questions. It's just, I think, her place as a young Black person in this group with two older white actors. It's kind of a strange interview, all in all. I don't think the questions given to Jennifer or Alexander are necessarily like very good questions in the first place, but I think it shows pretty clearly how many of these interviewers don't really know like what to do with these young Black stars. And that can take the form of ignoring them, like in this example, or kind of overcompensating and treating them like adults. I think the second one is probably better, but I think they lead to these same questions of how do we see young Black people in Hollywood, and what are the instincts when these people are interviewing or writing about or interacting with young Black stars in Hollywood. Something else I want to talk about, which I think kind of expands the conversation definitely, is how Black interviewers come into this.
You are just goals for so many young Black women who just look
For
up to
so many
you.
women.
So many women. Yeah, for women too, but for Black women, we need people on a whole nother level. How does that feel for you to be so young and just be like a role model for so many people?
I mean, it overarchingly just kind of surreal, but I have to appreciate the fact that the support comes from me just being me, and so luckily I don't have to like promote some sort of facade to gain that support. But also I feel like it's been amazing because I get to be a part of such an incredible and thoughtful and brilliant community, and so it's very easy to just be constantly motivated and inspired because you look next to you in any which direction, and there are people that are like continuing to work in another industry, in another area of your life.
So in this first clip, which has become kind of infamous for Gina Rodriguez kind of undermining this idea of Yara Shahidi being a role model for young Black girls, I actually want to focus on something else, and that is how the interviewer approaches and kind of supports his claim and his ability to ask Yara this question because of their position as Black people in this industry. So, you can kind of see that this back and forth between Yara and the interview is very much based in a community of Black people in Hollywood. And because she is so excellent, is able to, be herself in this space, is something that she understands and something that the interviewer understands. So, he asks this question, doesn't necessarily think that he's going to get any type of pushback from that. And even though he kind of does, Yara answers it in the way in which he proposed it. So she's getting what he's saying, and she says it. She doesn't say it in like a radical way. She just says like, I'm proud to be in this community, and I'm proud to be a young Black woman in this community, basically.
What is the film about?
So the film is about this girl named Star Carter, who is code switching between these two different environments.
Code switching?
Code switching.
What is code switching?
Code switching is like the first time that I experienced code switching or witnessed it when I was a kid is when my mom would be like, child, if you do not rinse your damn dishes, I swear. And then like the phone would ring. She'd be like, hello, this is Karen. Hi.
That's two different people, yeah.
Like a lot of people
Code
experience
switching.
code switching, but then like if you're Black and you forget to code switch, like the result could be that you get shot by a cop. So that's what this film is about.
Your character plays an interesting role where she grows up in what many people would call the hood,
Yeah.
So you grew up in the hood, but she gets to go to a privileged school that is predominantly white.
Yeah.
Right? And she lives in this world where she code switches all the time. She's got her white friends, she's got her Black friends, she lives between two worlds. And what happens is her friend who's Black gets shot.
Yeah.
And now she's stuck choosing between these two worlds.
Right.
It's a really interesting dilemma, and I wondered, like, as a person, was there anything in your life that you drew from, that you connected with when it came to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you are Black and living a contemporary Black experience, you probably have code switched at some point in time, or are actively code switching in your everyday life. I know that you relate to that experience.
Right.
I read that in your book.
But yeah, it's a normal thing to do, but this is a higher level of code switching. Because I mean, it's one thing to go from, hey, what's up, to good morning, sir.
Right.
But it's another thing to code switch your allegiances. Because your character is at a white school and she's going, if I testify against these cops or if I speak out, I will be seen as being anti-cop by my white friends.
Exactly.
And on the other side, if I testify, people will see me as a snitch.
Yeah.
That's a difficult game to play.
Yeah, she's walking a really difficult line, but she comes to the conclusion at the end of the day that she can no longer compromise who she is, and that she needs to stand up for her community. She needs to be her most authentic self, and she'll no longer, you know, put on her white voice in those spaces.
I think the reason that Trevor Noah works better with how he interacts with Amanda's discussion about code switching is that he makes the conversation past just knowing what code switching is. Knowing about code switching is not a revolutionary thing, but The Hate U Give does have a lot more revolutionary ideas in there, so the conversation naturally should kind of go past just the fact that code switching exists. Whereas Jimmy Kimmel, he doesn't know what or maybe he does know what code switching is, but he pretends not to know what code switching is, and that's what the whole conversation becomes about. You know, I think a lot of us can relate to that, where you kind of get stuck at having these conversations over and over again that are at such a shallow level that you can never really get past it. Let's think about the audience. If Trevor Noah is thinking about code switching in a more thoughtful way, you know, maybe there is one or two people in the audience, or a lot of people in the audience, who don't know what code switching is. But I don't think that that means that they can't understand these more complex ideas about code switching. And then that can, you know, trigger some interest, and they can go and they can Google what code switching is, and then they can come back and deepen their understanding. Whereas on the Jimmy Kimmel show, Jimmy Kimmel says, "What is code switching?" She explains what code switching is. The audience says, "Great, now I know what code switching is, we're done." The reason that I'm talking about this in conjunction with Young Black Hollywood is because I think that they deserve that complexity. I think that just focusing on how young and how excellent they are kind of undermines what a lot of them are really trying to do. And of course they do it anyways, and they get that message through. Trevor Noah also praised these young black stars, but in a lot of these other interviewers, that's where it ends. And there's nothing further past them being young and black and excellent. You know, I think ultimately what these interviews show is that people have a real problem with just letting black people exist as individuals. And we always have to exist within this broader context. So all of these excellent young stars are unique or exemplary in the black community and should be separated because of that. However, they're all very different. They don't express the same kinds of excellence. They're just excellent. So I think ultimately the goal is to allow black people to exist as themselves, and, you know, of course within the community and the context of blackness and all of that, everything that comes with that, but without the preconceptions that also come with that categorization. Yeah. So thank you for watching my second video. Of course, go look at the blog post and look at all the previous posts and watch the last video, and, you know, subscribe, like, all that stuff. See you soon.